Just Stop Oil protesters block Piccadilly Circus on ninth day of action. Prostesters from Just Stop Oil set up roadblocks around Piccadilly Circus, with some gluing themselves to the road to halt traffic on a ninth day of action on Sunday. The group, made up of 45 supporters, caused traffic jams around the busy junction as part of a series of demonstrations aimed at forcing the government into further action to tackle climate change. Earlier on Sunday morning, 35 activists from the group marched from Downing Street to the Royal Courts of Justice. A Met Police spokesman said officers were removing protesters from Piccadilly Circus, with specialists releasing them from glue and other methods they had used to attach themselves to the road. Over the weekend, Scotland Yard said 100 activists were arrested, mainly from the Just Stop Oil group and Animal Rebellion, another eco-campaign. Vanya Marks, 45, a mum of two from East London, was at the demonstration and said she did not believe the government was taking climate change seriously enough. She said, "Once you know the damage that fossil fuels are doing to the climate and what this means for people, you know you have to take action. Because if you don't, it's like you're saying you are okay with this damage." The government is not only refusing to take action to stop extracting fossil fuels, they are actively making the situation worse by fast-tracking new gas and oil licenses. When organized society is in tatters and my kids are fighting strangers for the last loaf of bread in the supermarket, I want to look them in the eye and tell them that I tried my best. Bertie Coyle, 27, a writer and volunteer from South London, said, "I'm sick of the people who profit from oil laughing at us. We don't need to just roll over and pretend it's not happening. The government has chosen to prioritize looting this country rather than protecting the people. It's one step forward, two steps back. That's why we need direct action and nonviolent civil resistance. It's unpleasant to face the reality of climate change now, but it's going to be so much worse if we don't act immediately." And Richards, 64, an emeritus professor with 3 daughters and 2 granddaughters from London, said, "I am taking action for my children, grandchildren and all future generations. When I see the devastating consequences of climate change happening now, it makes me so angry that we, as the public, are so complacent and passive. We will not be intimidated by changes to the law, we will not be stopped by private injunctions sought to silence peaceful people." The group have been targeting different locations across the capital in a bid to raise awareness of their cause. A blockade on Saturday caused severe traffic disruption on Marylebone Road, which leads onto the A40. Superintendent Chris Green, who led the policing operation, said, "This weekend we saw repeated efforts to cause damage to businesses and to unreasonably disrupt the lives of ordinary Londoners by blocking roads." The policing operation required to respond to these challenges is significant. It requires many officers out on the ground in key locations in addition to those who are needed to process prisoners and then carry out the investigations to turn arrests into charges and ultimately, outcomes at court. We fully support peaceful protest and will always try to work with organizers so that protests can go ahead safely, but the public rightly expect us to respond swiftly and effectively where protest crosses the line into criminality. Thanks to the dynamic and effective response of the dedicated men and women who were on duty over the past 2 days, we have identified offenders, prevented further incidents of criminal damage and kept disruption in central London to a minimum.